Hello, hi guys, welcome back to the Football Showdown channel. We are back with another scouting report, the TFS scouting report. We're talking about a player who has failed at PSG, a striker that has been linked with many clubs. But what is he up to these days? Is he good enough? What are his strengths? How good is he? Where does he need to improve? And what next in his chapter? The player today that we're going to talk about is Hugo Ekitike. And to help me with his scouting report, let's call upon the guest or the guy who makes sure that all these videos are happening on this channel, Aarush. Hey Aarush, how are you?
What's up? I'm good. I'm good.
Welcome, man. I know we're going to talk about a striker. Arsenal needs a striker. Many clubs around the world needs a striker too. Some say
Yep.
Barca, some say even Chelsea, right? But this player and what we're going to do today is to make sure that we know who he is overall. We're not going to talk
Yep.
about how he's going to fit into one specific system. We're just going to talk about who he is, right? And definitely
Yep.
you have all the insights for that. So before we get into all his strengths and areas to improve, who is Hugo Ekitike for all the people out there?
Yeah, considering the seasons gone by, majority of the clubs are looking for a center forward this season. And one of the most underrated names in this whole list is Hugo Ekitike, in my opinion. Why?
Hmm,
Because this guy has had a very impressive season for Eintracht Frankfurt this season in the
hmm,
Bundesliga, where he's touched over 30 goals in goal involvements
right.
during the season.
Hmm,
And his influence on Frankfurt's play has been massive.
hmm,
Although you can argue that Marmoush, when he was back at Frankfurt earlier this season,
hmm,
was just as competitive as him. But
right.
um, he, like you mentioned in the introduction, was an ex-PSG player
Hmm,
whose stint under the time with like players in front of him were like Asensio or Neymar or Messi or an Mbappe
hmm,
was quite to be an underwhelming stint in my opinion.
hmm,
And it's actually nice to see a player get a redemption arc, and that's at such a young age as well. So the recognition he's getting in such a short span of time for
hmm,
the stuff he's doing is very appreciable, I'd say.
hmm,
So who is Hugo Ekitike? Ekitike is like more of a entertaining, direct, like a dynamic forward who's there, who like thrives
hmm,
on like being involved in
hmm,
every attacking sequence. So he's like a ball magnet, I'd say, because this guy is very progressive with his football that he plays. The
hmm,
style of play is what attracts many viewers to watch him,
right.
and that has just made him to be one of the most talked young center forwards in
Hmm,
Europe.
Fair enough. You mentioned entertaining and how he has a certain flair to him, right? That's what
Yeah.
caught my eye. That's why I watched a little bit more of him than what I did before. So let's talk
Mhm.
about his play style. How does he normally play, and how does he like how does he make it happen?
In possession, I think one of his most impressive qualities is how, as an attacker, he can carry the ball because
Hmm,
the growing pattern in the best talents nowadays is how they can carry the ball. So
hmm,
I think that is what he is standing out. He averages over 2.885 progressive carries and 1.97 successful take-ons per 90, which
hmm,
then sees him glide past challenges. Then
hmm,
just the clever positioning that he has with the nimble footwork that he has just makes him a very good ball carrier, I'd say. So
right.
if you would ask me what is the one thing that Ekitike is known for, and
Hmm,
I 100% say it's the dribbling style of his, the flair you spoke of.
right.
So this quality of his is like a proper ground breaking quality. Why? Because it
Hmm,
just resonates with his entertaining profile where he can change angles, use his hand. He's quite tall as well.
hmm,
So the spatial awareness that he produces through that in terms of running and the
hmm,
intensity in general is just superb, I'd say.
right.
So the mix of carries and dribbles that he has links to his good hold up play and link up play that he has as a center forward, because he
Hmm,
operates as a pass first forward,
hmm,
and then he enjoys the flashy one twos that he does, the dribbles, and then just the burst of pace that he has
hmm,
um
hmm,
to penetrate defenses. It is a game changing aspect.
right.
So this guy's quickness in like his feet, the agility, the quick feet that I spoke of,
Hmm,
and the movements in the angles give him like an advantage to shoot also from majority of positions and
uh,
win 1v1 duels. So
hmm,
that
hmm,
is good again for his shot taking actions.
right.
Um, as a center forward, we have lots of clubs linked to like a Gyökeres or a Sesko, and majority of them complain that these guys are good box dominators but not good in linking up play. But that's
Right.
not Ekitike because this guy has a tendency to drop deeper. He
Hmm.
can play with his back to goal. He is very comfortable in shielding the ball and
Hmm.
then holding off defenders and combining with players. So
Hmm.
the half turns that he can make, the threads of passes,
Hmm.
the pockets he can play in between the lines and like play passes in the pockets as well. I think
Hmm.
he's got a quite overall of a good general attacking play as a center forward. So
Right.
again, box domination is also just as good. Why? Because it
Hmm.
comes with maturity in his positioning, I'd say, because um, he works in the blind side of defender. So
Hmm.
this blind side defender work, the movements that he puts off
Hmm.
is good for the person who's passing the ball to him. He makes it easier for them. That's
Right.
what I want to say.
Hmm.
So he consistently finds those threatening positions and then just camps in the box, like many
Right.
say. So he
Huh.
camps in the box and like he prepares himself for like tap-ins and stuff like that, which
Hmm.
again warrant to a good attacker's play in terms
Right.
of positioning and like smartness and like execution of it. So
Hmm.
if you want to judge him on how he operates in like tight spaces in terms of a crowded box of players, and he's very good in like breaking low blocks and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
for the clubs looking at him, I think that would be one aspect to actually um, drive and get a player of his quality.
Hmm.
Um, in terms of play style out of possession, I think as a striker,
Hmm.
his quality to contribute into like the interceptions per 90 and stuff like that have some good
Hmm.
numbers. Why?
Hmm.
Because it is again a testament of how he approaches the game. It is his willingness to press from the front and like win the ball, like the ball magnet thing I spoke of. So he
Hmm.
likes to retain possession, recycle possession, and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So the difference between his work rate when he was at PSG, when he was at Reims, when he started his career, to what it is now has
Hmm.
drastically changed for its own good.
Hmm.
And that has been massive for how, again, Frankfurt approach the games as well now. So
Hmm.
the cutting of passing lanes that he has, the movements in general, and like how he can just find like the right pressing point, go to
Hmm.
their weakness of the opposition side, putting the players into the blind side and stuff like that
Hmm.
gets better like game by game and like that just benefits how they play. So yeah,
Hmm. Good. Good. Uh, how old is he? About
I
20.
think he's 22. Yeah, 22.
22, 22, right? We spoke, I mean, you mentioned about like how good he is on the ball and how he can play in those pockets. You said even when it comes to out of position, he's very good at intercepting the ball. That means he can read the ball, he can read the game properly, right? But if you look at the teams that he's been linked with, like let's take a Barca or a United, where they build from the back, or they are trying to make sure that they have the ball for like for long. And if you're trying to make a move from Frankfurt, no disrespect to Frankfurt, but to a bigger club like a Barca or a United, uh, there definitely needs to be something that he needs to improve upon, right? So could you like
Yeah.
shed some light about it?
Yeah, one of the major criticism points in terms of Ekitike has been overall that has been his urgency to shoot.
Hmm.
Why? I'll give you statistically because this
Hmm.
guy has over 100 shots in the Bundesliga this season, and he's only managed to convert over just like a 15 goals with an XG of over 20.5 or something. So that just
Hmm.
speaks, it just paints a picture of how inconsistent he is in terms of finishing.
Right.
And again, it's a larger perspective for center forwards. Why? Because some would see this as a complete downside for a center forward because, oh my
Hmm.
God, my center forward's missing chances. He's not the most clinical striker.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
again, conversion rate doesn't speak much. Why? Because again, getting into these positions, finding the ball, striking the ball, and all of it is is like a bigger advantage to his own understanding of the game and positioning and like
Hmm.
overall game. And then okay, he doesn't maybe finish, how can he improve that? That
Hmm.
has one side. Also, another inefficiency that I've seen in his game is his use of his over reliance on like his stronger right foot. The
Hmm.
weak foot ability, I think it limits his tendency to shoot from the left foot. So I
Okay.
think getting better at his left foot would obviously increase more angles and
Hmm.
actually give him a better output as well. So that. And aerially, I think he needs improvement as well, even though the height he has, he's quite tall.
Hmm.
But aerially, he has managed like only a single goal this season aerially. So that is again another thing.
Uh,
And we've praised him above for his agility as well. So I think for someone like him, he needs to improve his physical strength to like handle the robust defenders that he'd face. Say you
hmm,
took names of Barcelona and Manchester United, both of these playing leagues which are very physical.
hmm,
So, as much as his technical profile will help him, he
hmm,
needs to build out physically to actually translate well
hmm,
into the Premier League or the La Liga. So,
hmm.
yeah, sample size is still less. It's just his first season being one of the best young strikers. So, he has time, he has the attributes in his hand to like actually work to these and like play according to the styles he would be asked to play for. So, yeah.
True, true. Fair enough. Uh, when I saw uh, Ekitike play, right, it kind of reminded me of certain players or a certain player who's actually in the Premier League right now. I don't want to like mention it. Probably you would definitely like talk about it. So uh, if you compare Hugo to another player or players out there in the world right now, who would you like compare him to? Because if you're missing that, then I'll talk about it because it's genuinely like very interesting to see how he plays.
Yeah, cool. I'll go first. So I think let's just talk about his profile. He operates as a mobile nine.
Hmm,
So he's very mobile as a center forward, in contrast of what a traditional center forward would look like, who doesn't drop deep but rather camps in the box, like we spoke of in like a box denominator. So
hmm,
that is one point. But this guy is more of a guy who would like to be on the ball, drift towards the left, prefers playing diagonally, and
hmm,
also likes to facilitate play with his own actions, not through
hmm,
other people.
hmm.
So keeping all of this in mind, I don't know if this is the name you'd thought of, but I think he has a very strong resemblance to a Joshua Zirkzee from his time
Oh,
at Bologna.
uh-huh. Okay.
Solely why I'm saying this, because this guy likes to drop deeper, be the creative forward, and
Hmm.
prioritize chance making.
Okay.
Okay, you can argue that one is better than the other in one of those aspects, but what I think is
Hmm,
Akiteke arguably carries more direct goal threat than the other,
hmm.
and he's more inclined. He's a better finisher than Xerxes, what he was at Bologna, but they
Bologna.
have a similar player profile, in my opinion.
Okay.
Another comparison we've seen, at least on Twitter as of late, is been the comparison to an Alexander Isak, who's the
Yeah.
best center
Yeah.
forward currently in
Uh,
world football. So I think that just bridges a gap between like a emerging talent and like a established world class player. But
hmm.
it would make sense if you would want to compare him to the Sociedad version of Isak
Isak, huh?
from a couple of years back. So both forwards again like to drift left,
Hmm,
are tall, use their height
hmm,
not as much in terms of getting the goals, but rather are good in like their 1v1s and on the ball
hmm,
stuff
hmm,
like that. So I think for him, the next step in this conversation would be to
hmm,
make that move to elevate his game overall, because this guy has the traits in him to actually
hmm,
elevate his profile. So yeah,
hmm,
stuff
hmm.
like that would help him.
True, true. The play that I felt that he was very similar to was Isak itself. But then who does Isak like resemble in the Premier League? Many people compare him to probably the greatest striker the Premier League has ever seen, Thierry Henry, right? Because
Yeah.
the way that even you mentioned that he comes from the left and then goes centrally, that we have seen in Mbappe, we definitely couldn't get his services. Isak, we had like a huge opportunity for like 70 million. We didn't go for that. Hugo is probably available for the same range, but
Probably.
for the same range, right? So, but if I'm talking from an Arsenal perspective, I don't think Arsenal would be ready for a player like him because we are trying to get an established player. Maybe if he goes to a Barca team where all of them are young, nobody is a finished product, at least in the front. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe if we talk about like Rafinha, probably is the only finished player that they have in their front. So maybe if they get a Hugo, that will definitely help them elevate. Now that Leva is on the end, United could be another place where he could end up because even they're trying to build a young squad, trying to build from the scratch, right? So I think it'll be great if he makes moves to a club that will give him time rather than the club
Mhm.
that gives him all the responsibilities to like take over and just score for them and win games, or sometimes even win the league or even the Champions League, right? So yeah, I do not know where Hugo will go, but definitely a very very exciting talent to even watch. If you
Yeah,
have not watched him, guys, do watch him. I know people have tuned in to watch Frankfurt games to watch who Marmoush is, but definitely you got to tune in to watch who Hugo was. Maybe the simplest match you could have watched in recent times was when he played against Spurs.
yeah.
Unfortunately, they lost, but yeah, it is what it is.
He did score a banger goal in that game and ended up
True.
celebrating like a Thierry Henry. So
Yeah, exactly.
he knows the deal. He knows the deal as a
True.
Frenchman.
True, true. Any final remark before we wrap up the video?
Not really, but I think for his own sake, if he works on his deficiencies and then just maintains like a consistency, for me personally, I think it's better for him to stay at Frankfurt for another season,
Hmm,
considering they have gotten Europe, I'm guessing, this season for
hmm,
their strong performances, and they can also build through him.
hmm,
So for him to actually improve, I think a season at Frankfurt and then a big move would be better, in my opinion. So yeah.
hmm. True. Same. I think him staying at his own club and developing right now would be better than making a big moves and headlines, all the lights on him. But yeah, that's our scouting report, guys. The TFS certified scouting report. I hope you guys liked it. Keep liking, keep sharing, and keep subscribing, and switch on the bell icon to know when we are posting out new videos or when we are going to go live in that week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Yeah, till we see you soon. Till then, good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you're in the world. Peace. Bye bye.